That's quite nice and very unusual. This is a black carrot kanji at Noon, a brand new restaurant in BKC, and it's run by a very knowledgeable and very enthusiastic chef, Vanika, and we'll chat with her today, and we're going to try out some dishes, and we're going to check out the restaurant. So, when did you decide to become a chef?
6.5 years back, I gave up my job. I used to be the CEO of a company called Out of Home. I quit that. I went on a short sabbatical, and I was supposed to start another job with Hanover India as their India head. And I decided to take a short sabbatical because I was working for 10 years non-stop, and I thought, even though I wanted to become a chef, but I wasn't very confident because, I'm not a trained chef. I've just learnt on the job. I've not gone to a culinary school. And well, this was definitely, it's come out of passion. But then I kept thinking, what if I fail and I don't have any culinary background? What if it doesn't work out? I would have put all my savings into this, and what? And then, 1 year down the line, it doesn't work out and we are shut. Then what do I do then? I don't think I'll have the confidence to start from scratch. So during my sabbatical, I went for a yoga teacher's training. I went to do a Markha Valley trek, which is about 16,000 feet in Ladakh. And then I was traveling a lot in Europe. When I came back home from all these travels, I realized that this is what I really wanted to do and give it a chance. And I picked up the phone, I called up my boss. The job I was supposed to start actually 4 weeks later, and I said no to them. And I gave myself a 3-month time frame to work on my business plan, to work on the idea that I had, to put together the marketing resources, the financial resources, look for a space, hire the team, train the team, get the space ready, and then I actually managed to do this in 3 months. I found the space and we started working on it. This was in June 2016. That's when I started Sequel. And of course, we launched Noon 3 weeks back, 18th of Feb last month.
What is the cuisine of this restaurant? Trick question.
Yes, there isn't any cuisine as such. I would say the menu is a mix of everything from for example, the tacos to the handmade noodles to the tartlets, a lot of small plates from the charcoal, a lot of them, While it isn't specific to any cuisine, the idea is to celebrate indigenous produce from across the country and using techniques to elevate the flavor profile. Most of it being fermentation, and of course there's a whole bunch of others like the stuff from the charcoal, sun drying and things like that. So yeah, the idea is to be very ingredient driven and not specific to any cuisine as such.
So is the food inspired by your travels?
Yes, the food is inspired by both my childhood and my travels. Just to give you an example, I think the first time I ever had a taco was, I think, in Seattle, maybe 13 years back or something like that. And everything was done the traditional way, like all the salsas were pounded in a mortar pestle. The tortillas were made using the tortilla press on a comal, which is the cast iron. And everything, what I saw those women doing, everything from scratch, like they were making their own masa, using purple corn, using red corn, using, yellow corn, and not just buying, a packaged masa. And I had it and I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. So this is the sprouted finger millet tortilla. This is an indigenous variety of millet called the Karun Ragi from Dhammatripuri. Once it's grown, it's harvested, it's soaked overnight, then it's sprouted for 3 days. After it's sprouted, it's stone ground to make a flour. So this is not eating ragi flour straight up. It's gone through a sprouting stage. So in keeping with the age-old philosophies of eating grains soaked, sprouted and fermented, which makes it easier for our microbiome. This is the Kodai avocado salsa with Cape gooseberries. We said, let's look at something
which are in season right now.
In season right now. Let's look at something similar flavor profile as a tomatilla, but something local. So we decided to use Cape gooseberries. Star fruits, such an underrated ingredient, and we actually let them ripen, so they are sweet. And it's mixed with the chili oil.
Where does your star fruit come from?
So it's all over. This is coming from here locally.
Okay.
You know, from Nasik actually. This is the star fruit, and you know, you don't really see so much of star fruit being the hero of a dish. You know, in food. It's mostly for cocktails, and we wanted to use something which is in season and for food. The charred prawns from the charcoal, which are actually glazed with the kokum kefir that you tasted.
Yeah.
So the idea is subtly how are we using so many different ferments to bring out the flavor profile. These are the shallots, which are then fermented in kanji, the black carrot kanji, and that's also coming from our greenhouse. And this is a specific variety of mint called the chocolate mint,
Right.
which we are growing at the greenhouse.
So how are diners reacting to all this?
Well, most of it, we've got, you know, amazing reviews from people. We're already seeing some people who are coming back, you know, which is a great sign. Although I know that a lot of this work is happening behind the scenes because a lot of it is technique driven. So it's difficult to educate the customers, and we are hoping that we do that going forward through social media.
Right. Can you tell us a bit about the desserts? I think you have a raw cacao ice cream, which is
yes.
really nice, I'm told.
Yes. So what we do is the ice cream is freshly churned with coconut milk. We make our own coconut milk, coconut sugar, and raw cacao. And obviously we just didn't want to serve the ice cream as it is. So how do we play on different flavor profiles? How is it that we make it sweet, salty, bitter, everything together, you know, so that they're literally different flavors hitting your palate in one bite. So while the ice cream, the scoop is that it's on a bed of granita, which is basically a raspberry granita. You know, last year, early last year in Jan, Sequel did a wellness retreat in Mahabaleshwar. We did the retreat and we were also part of the retreat. So on one day when we went for a hike, I saw this berry, looked like raspberry but black in color. And when I tasted it, it just tasted amazing. I had never tasted a berry like that. And then, you know, when I was talking to the guards, they started telling me this is the indigenous variety from the forest in Mahabaleshwar. So while strawberries have become a rage thanks to how commercially driven everything is, raspberry was the indigenous variety and not the strawberry, you know. So we now work with that farmer collective where they pick the berries for us, they send it to us. So the granita is made with that, and we wanted a slightly salty and umami taste. So what we do is we also ferment the raspberries for a week to 10 days. So it comes with these fermented raspberries and the cacao bark which we make here, which is just cacao tempered with the butter and a hint of sea salt on the dessert.
So where does your cacao come from?
So the cacao comes from Kerala.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you spoke a lot about fermentation. That's clearly very, very big.
Focus.
Big focus. So can we kind of go check out some
Yes,
of these ferments
of
and see what's bubbling in the kitchen?
Yeah, what's bubbling in the kitchen.
So Vanika, I know you're very big on fermentation. Can you just tell this, go through some of the ferments?
Some of the ferments that we have here.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is to look at fermentation and use it as one of the core techniques to elevate the flavor profile of what we are doing here. So we've got everything fermenting from our own miso to shoyu to mushroom shoyu to kimchi to different kind of krauts, making our own apple cider vinegar using rose apples which are in season, making our own mole but with indigenous ingredients and the ones which are native to Mexico but grown locally here, you know, all organic. Our sourdough starters made with native ingredients, made with some of the indigenous ingredients which I'll take you through, making our own different kinds of garums both the plant-based ones, the prawn one, the fish one. So a lot going on here. We currently have over 30 ferments in the kitchen. I'm going to start with the miso and the green pea one, which is very different from what's happening, you know. So this is a batch which is ready. This is a batch which is going to be fermented for 12 to 13 weeks, and we just kept it this month. So you know, I mean, I've spent most of the last year with the team planning on the menu, working on all these ferments. And you know, before we decided to make our own miso, one day we just had a lot of excess produce from the farm. We were already doing a whole bunch of other fermentation, and it was mostly green peas and butternut squash from our greenhouse. And we said, how can we preserve it? And we said, okay, why don't we try and make a miso out of it? You know, and not use the traditional soybeans, because the idea is to look at fermentation, go beyond the kimchi crowd, but even with the traditional miso, for example, or the kefirs, look at them using indigenous produce, using native produce, using local produce. And you know, we make our own rice koji with the indigenous varieties like the HMT, for example, or the kolam, or even the black rice one. So we fermented this for 13 weeks. I mean, this is much later than that. The first batch that we fermented of the green pea miso, we kept tasting it after 4 weeks, and we realized that it still needs more work, and it was just perfect after 13 weeks. And what actually turned out to be was just absolutely amazing. I'll let you taste, of course. Okay. Very salty.
So this is like the green pea miso with butternut
squash and with ambe moha rice koji.
Okay. Oh, it's quite nice.
Yeah, very different from the
miso. But it's still like a miso. It's still like
a miso, but you know, it's not the dark miso, but it's the lighter one.
Yeah.
But you still get that umami bomb, and then we are using this in, for example, the noodles that we have on the menu, the handmade, you know, buckwheat noodles. The broth is made with heirloom tomatoes, and it's finished with green pea miso, and that's what adds like this really amazing.
Is there a little bit of chili also? I'm getting a little heat.
There's no chili, but it has. You get that
tingle.
Yeah. So it's the idea is it's both sweet. You know, it's both sweet because of the butternut squash, and slightly, you know, because of the green pea, which acts as a protein. But you don't get that. You know, if you just taste a miso by itself, it's very different from this kind of a miso.
Is it technically possible to make a miso out of absolutely anything?
Yes, we've done lots of experiments. Yeah. This is the one which is getting fermented. I'm going to take you through the other experiments that we've done. And they are all on the menu currently. Just 1 second. You know, so the whole idea is you can think completely out of the box. I mean, who says that miso has to be made only with soybeans, or, you know, I mean, of course now I know people are doing with split peas, with chickpeas, but who says that you can't make it with fresh produce? And another way of looking at miso was that we have one batch which is fermented, which we'll make you taste. This one is made with finger millet. This is not just any finger millet. This is the indigenous variety called Karun Ragi, which grows in Dhammatrapuri in Tamil Nadu. It's grown by the tribals. It's a farmer collective. You know, so it's an indigenous variety. It's not just any miso. Karun translates to black in English. So this we are going to ferment for 13 to 14 weeks. We'll keep tasting it after every week to check the flavor profile. And this is with the millet and with the ambe moha rice koji that we make here. So you can literally make miso out of anything. And I'm going to take out another one, and the hot sauce.
Is this how you get your workouts all day?
Yes, definitely. The hot sauce, which is fermented with ghost peppers, bhoot jalakia, one of the spiciest peppers, Indian, grown at our greenhouse at Offerings. We wanted to balance the acidity, the heat, you know. So we balanced it with baby carrots because they're slightly sweet. So the exo is basically the mushrooms, slow cooked mushrooms with the hot sauce and with the millet miso. This, of course, I won't give you to taste. You'll
I know.
just
Yeah.
it's way.
So it's all quite seasonal,
It's very seasonal.
and you can't possibly use it all year. It's going to run out, and you have to make something else.
Exactly. So maybe we'll use it the second season. The idea is also to preserve seasons, but definitely cannot use it year long.
So fermenting is like an art.
It is an art, and I think, it is an art, and I think I picked it up from my grandmother. While, of course, as a culture, Indians haven't been making miso and kimchi, but fermentation has been a key component for as long as I remember. If you look at different cultures across India, whether it's dosa, whether it's idli, whether it's amboli, whether it's sail roti from Darjeeling, whether it's guntruk from Nepal and from the northeastern state, bhatura also is fermented. It is the traditional one. I'm not talking about the commercial varieties. The traditional one is fermented. Poi, poi from Goa. If you look at, and then of course the kanji, and I think my most favorite one is basically the achar done the traditional way, whether it's in the summer sun or in the winter sun or in spring or fall, with cold pressed oil and heirloom spices for as long as 6 to 8 weeks. And I think that's where I got my love for fermentation, from what I observed and also absorbed while I was growing up. My nani would make all sorts of achars, everything from galgal, the Himalayan lemon, the big one, to kadam, the turnips and the kohlrabi, the kadam, shalgam, to even lotus root, to even the Kashmiri bangan, the long ones, and to, of course, the most common ones like the ambi, which is basically the raw mango, even jackfruit when it's just about to be in season right now. And I think I saw a lot of this while growing up, and that's where I get my love for it. And every winter I would see my nani, like black carrots they are in season the moment winter starts, and one of the best ways to preserve it is to make kanji, which is this traditional North Indian drink, which is fermented in the winter sun for 7 to 10 days in an earthen pot. And that's where I get my love for kanji from. But the idea was not only to just sip on these ferments, use them heavily in cooking. So one of the dishes that we have, the finger millet tortillas with prawns, kanji, we use kanji to ferment shallots for the next 10 days after this is fermented.
Oh, I see.
To change the
so
flavor.
Actually use a ferment to ferment other things.
Yes, because the whole idea is that we wanted to change the flavor profile of the shallots.
Right.
They're slightly sweet, slightly mild. They're not pungent like the onions, and we wanted to bring out a certain tang in them. And the other one is kokum, amsol. So we make a lot of kefirs from, we've got, I think between the kombucha, kvass, kanji and kefir, we at least have 10 flavors at least, using all seasonal produce. And taking a cue from Ayurveda on digestive blends.
So it's obviously a milk-free kefir.
It's a milk-free kefir. These are all milk-free kefirs. This one is with coconut. We've got one with coconut and almond, and these are all seasonal produce. This is with roselle.
So you need to use kefir grains for it?
Yes,
to start
you use kefir grains, which we have. You can see one of the first fermentation. You'll see the grains at the bottom.
Yeah.
And this is all a result of the second fermentation. So we are not using just any fruit. The whole idea is to use a bunch of indigenous varieties. So therefore roselle, get a little creative, make plant-based ones, and preserving seasons like pink guava is in season right now. And coming back to it, to the kokum kefir, one of the digestive blends as far as Ayurveda is concerned is actually kokum, ginger and coconut. And we said, why can't we convert that digestive blend into a kefir? With just a slight hint of chili, which we've used lemon pepper. And this, the prawn that you had, the prawn from our tortilla. it's actually glazed with this kokum kefir when it's on the charcoal. So, you know, if you just want to taste the,
Yeah, sure.
the
So this is the kokum
the
kefir
kokum
that
kefir.
we're trying.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Does it taste, because it's not milk based, does it taste a bit like a kanji in a sense?
But much subtler flavor. Kanji is salty. Kanji is traditionally supposed to be very salty. I mean, people can use sea salt, can use rock salt, but I use black salt. I always saw my nani ferment it with black salt.
Right.
And black salt is also great as far as digestion is concerned. So, but kefirs are very mild as compared to, you know, to a.
When is a kefir ready? How long does it take?
So, the first fermentation, it happens quite a lot. It's a sign that it's very well fermented.
Champagne?
Yeah. But this means it's beautifully fermented.
Yes. You need sturdy bottles.
Yes. We have a lot of bottles popping every now and then. But you know, the idea is also to look at, you want to try the...
But tell me, will it have a slight alcohol content?
No, so after it goes through a fermentation, we ferment our, this one is the kombucha, not the kefir.
Okay.
We ferment our kombucha for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
The first fermentation, and it's not just a regular kombucha.
Yeah.
It's made with a mix of chamomile, the wild chamomile that we get from Ladakh, rooibos, and the single origin white tea, the white peony, but all local. The white peony we are getting from Dharamshala, from Anandani Himalayan tea. We are working with farmer collectives in Ladakh for wildflowers. The chamomile comes from there, and we use the rooibos, you know. So it's fermented for 3 weeks, you know, and we've got different kinds of scobies, so many different flavors going on. And the second fermentation, we check the flavor profile from 3 days upwards, and sometimes we actually ferment it a week longer as well, because we think it needs that. So this one is pink guava, which is in season with just a tiny, you'll get, once you sip it, you know, on your palate there'll be this lingering spice, but very mild. We've added some Kashmiri red chilies to it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Simply amazing, and just to think of the sort of effort that has gone into this tortilla. If you just see it, you won't know that, but you know, some of these things have been fermented for 90 days, and there are about 15 ingredients in it, and there's star fruit, and there's avocado from Kodaikanal, and tiger prawns from Bengal, and it's absolutely amazing. And I think sometimes we don't realize, you know, how much effort these chefs make with their food. And let's raise a toast to noon with this lovely black carrot kanji. When is a kefir ready? How long does it take?
So the first fermentation.
All right. I think you should offer it, you know, as a, you know, when guests want to celebrate, they can pop open a bottle of kefir. If they, you know, if they don't, you know.
For champagne.
Yes, yes. Most sustainable.